Welcome to my shitty kitchen. I have something really fun to talk about, but I'm gonna wait till later this week. I'm not ready to film that video yet, but I got completely derailed yesterday. Didn't accomplish a single thing. I'm the kind of person that when I wake up in the morning, especially when, I'm focused and all the thought trains are going in the right direction and I've got a plan and I know what I'm I feel like I know what I'm doing with my life. um, on those kinds of days, I wake up in the morning and, already have my whole day already mapped out for the most part, at least as far as like the list of to-dos and the things I've got to get done. And it's great. And the problem is if something unexpected happens first thing in the morning, the whole plan for the day just goes to absolute shit, which I'm used to. So it's usually not terrible. I try to give myself some grace when it happens and just not beat myself up too much because I didn't get the things accomplished that I had planned to get accomplished, which is sometimes a challenge, I'll admit. But yesterday was a distraction in all the right ways. I got an amazing little morale boost that I definitely needed and was very much appreciated. Also gave me lots to think about and to noodle on that I hadn't like seriously considered yet. But we'll talk about that later this week. Today, I sadly still don't have any orders, which isn't surprising. So I'm regrouping a bit. We are heading full steam ahead into market and festival season. So we're refocusing some of our efforts. We've got our first farmers market of the season that we're going to this weekend that I need to start prepping for now. So speaking from experience, it's really bad to wait until the last minute when you've got a lot of stuff you've got to pre-make to take with you. A different ball game prepping for a market or an event like a festival than it is prepping and the logistics around just doing online orders. Yeah, we're shifting focus a little bit. So I actually got some shit I got to get done this week. It's actually probably, maybe a bit of a blessing in disguise that I don't have any online orders at the moment, as much as I would love for that to happen. I do think, based off of some of the experiments I've been doing over the past few weeks, I've been doing a lot of, well, I had a rough time the past few weeks, which is part of why I got down last week. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you know I was on the struggle bus quite a bit last week. And a lot of that was because I realized one of the facets of the business that I've, still really want to make a thing and happen. Just, it's not the right time for it to be a thing. Sorry, I just saw a truck driving by, and anytime I see a large vehicle drive by the front window, I get anxious that it's the repo man coming to take Bertha from me. Dear sweet Bertha. So fingers crossed I've got a little bit more time on that. I really don't want to lose her. I love Bertha. She's amazing. Bertha's my car, by the way. Anyhow, but it's not. It's fine. It's just the city guy coming around to pick up all the stuff that people leave by the road. Anyhow, I digress. Squirrel. Lots of squirrels. ADHD is strong, as always. Anyhow, back to what I was trying to say. Point that I was trying to make in this video. Part of why I was bummed, find the train of thought again. Part of why I got bummed last week was the quickies, is what I call them, which is essentially just a fun, what I call a roadside stand, but slightly different concept. It's a concept that I think is a lot of fun and would love to do. So I'd been like experimenting with that and trying to see what kind of, reaction I can get or response I get to, how many people can I realistically get to stop by a stand on the side of the road. That's part of why I have the funny hats. And the setup that I have was to try, specifically to try to get as much attention and encourage people's curiosity and get them to stop at a quickie. They are incredibly inconsistent. Like there's pros and cons that I've learned, which aren't surprising. I had a feeling this is how it would go. But pros and cons, definitely for sure. They're inconsistent, and you're so beholden on the weather that that just adds to the inconsistency factor. And probably shouldn't have tried starting it that way to begin with in hindsight, but I was curious, I was curious to see what kind of reaction I would get, just like baseline data, if you will. Like if people don't know what a quickie is, have no idea who I am, have never seen me before, how much interest do I generate, kind of thing. And statistically speaking, actually not terrible, but yeah, the inconsistency of like getting people to stop. Like there's definitely, I've learned certain days and times that are better than others, certain locations. I learned a lot. So not a failed experiment by any means. The biggest challenge I had with him that I didn't really anticipate, largely because I live in Florida. So it's generally nice weather. But there are so many things you have to think about that you don't normally think about that I learned when you're just setting up on a random street corner peddling your wares. Wind. Wind is a big one. I severely underestimated the wind factor around here. Like it can be a beautiful day outside, but if you've got 20 to 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts happening, it makes setting up a canopy by yourself interesting. Interesting. We'll just leave it as interesting. And like the setup and takedown process is challenging for sure. Not to mention just, while you're there, products potentially getting knocked over in the wind. It's a mess. So you've got wind to contend with, obviously rain. That one's a no-brainer. We do get a decent amount of rain where I am, and it's can be completely random. It can be bright and sunny one minute and then a thunder boomer the next. Like, you have to, it's hard to tell sometimes whether or not you're gonna get wet. And if it's even worth setting up, depending on what the weather looks like for the day. The other thing I also wasn't really expecting was the cold factor. Yeah, there were basically, it was like a 3-week period where the weather, every time I tried to plan a quickie, the weather would not cooperate. It was either rainy, or it was windy, or it was cold, or some combination of the three. And then the last few weeks, even though the weather has been absolutely gorgeous, the yellow cloud of doom descended upon us, and my allergies, I couldn't take it. Like I'm just now getting adjusted to the pollen levels in the area. So I'm not down with a migraine. I had a headache, a constant sinus headache for like a week and a half. It was terrible. I was avoiding the outside as much as possible. So even though that's what really got me down, because then, I start internalizing my failures and feeling bad, like I should just be able to just suck it up and just deal with the headache and, go ahead and do the quickie to try to make some money despite my head feeling like it's going to explode. So we've had some challenges the past few weeks for sure, but I wasn't doing nothing during that period. So I shifted focus more on seeing what I could do from a digital marketing perspective at a hyper local level, just out of curiosity to see, since I wasn't doing the quickies, had to pause on that. And I'm I'm still doing them. I just did one last weekend. But again, if you watch my other video on that, I reset my expectations. So I'm approaching the quickies very differently at this point for the foreseeable future. Eventually I might get to the point where I can actually do the quickies the way that I envision them to be. Not really possible at this point, is what I've determined, which is fine. So we pivoted. When I started doing some more hyper local experiments with marketing on Facebook and Nextdoor, just out of curiosity to try to see if I could get my local community to go to the website and place an online order. Because I mean, ultimately, like, I love the idea of the quickies, but they're a gimmick and they're just for fun. Like, they're totally just for funsies. And, you know, ultimately, the online side of the business for local pickup and delivery and shipping is where the bread and butter is. That's like the end game, is to have majority of my business come through the website, and then markets, festivals, events, quickies, then all of those things are just for funsies. And just because I like doing shit like that. I don't want them to be a primary source of income, because that's sketch. We're not there yet. So I figured I was curious to see what kind of reaction I would get hyper local. I got on Nextdoor, I got on Facebook. I bit the bullet and put bakery signs in my yard. So I've been hesitant to do that just because my house is my safe space. It's the only place in the world I feel completely safe. So lots of mixed feelings about having people come to the house to pick stuff up. But it's kind of a necessary evil at this point. Logistically, if I want this to be a real business and actually do any sort of volume, there's no way in hell I can meet people in a neutral spot. There's just no way. Logistically, it'd be impossible. So, like, my only real option at this point is to have people come to the house, but that's a whole other thing. I digress again. Squirrel, all the squirrels. Um, so yeah, I put the sign in my yard. I even put a cooler with free samples in it, and in my yard by the signs for a couple days. I did it 2 different days. Just, again, I'm curious to see what kind of response I would get. I wasn't really sure, kind of 50-50 on which way I thought it would go. I even sent out some emails to a few local businesses and things in the area to see if they'd be interested in some sort of partnership. And the results were interesting. Not entirely unexpected. Like I said, I had a feeling it could go either way. And my suspicion was it would either not go well for reasons that I'll get to in a minute. It would either not go well or it would go well. It was, that's pretty cut and dry. Uh, now that I'm saying that out loud, that sounds stupid. Of course, it's either going to go well or not go well. What else? So, and it ended up not going well. I mean, it did, but it didn't. Statistically speaking, I got a lot of exposure and it did go well, if that's all I wanted. Conversion wise, horribly. I got 0 conversions from those efforts, which isn't surprising. And I honestly think my theory is, and this is what I suspected would happen if it didn't go well, would be the reasoning. So I don't know for sure. I don't have enough data to actually like confirm why people aren't converting despite the numbers. Like the views on Nextdoor, especially Nextdoor, like the views I get on Nextdoor are high. And I get some comments, I get some engagement. Like just from like a social media statistics perspective, great exposure, but no conversions. Similar thing on Facebook. I didn't get nearly number of views that I got on Nextdoor on Facebook, but I don't really care. I'm not a big Facebook fan. So I know a lot of people use it for local stuff, and it is valid in a lot of use cases, in a lot of scenarios, but Facebook ain't it for me. So I do post there some, but none of the experiments I've run on Facebook have yielded really any results. Nextdoor, on the other hand, I got a lot of exposure, a lot more views than I thought I would, to be honest. So, but no conversions, right? And then the free samples that I put in the yard that I thought, like, I even set up a camera the first day that I did it because I was worried people would just rate it. Like, I didn't know how that would go. It was, that was a kind of a shot in the dark out of curiosity to see if people would come by and get samples. And nobody, nobody even wanted the free samples. Which I have my suspicions again as to why that is. It's probably a little weird. Fair. You just got a random cooler in somebody's yard with free samples on it. Like, I don't know if I would do it either, to be honest. So I get that. That's fair. But I did think some people would take them at least. Nobody. Nobody took any. The only people that took some were a couple of, I'm not sure if they were Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons. There were a couple of young guys that stopped by trying to speak the word of Jesus to me. And that's just not ever going to go well. Like, you do you, boo. Like, I really don't care what you personally believe, but I am I am not of that mindset, nor will you ever convince me otherwise. So usually I hide from them and don't answer the door. Yeah. But I just like it was I just put the signs up in the yard. I had the free samples out there. So when I got a knock on the door, I, was like, well, I'm trying to run a business out of my home. I guess I should answer the door. So I did, and it was them. To be fair, they were incredibly sweet, so respectful of me as well. Like, usually when I have encounters with them, there's a lack of respect. Like, I am more than willing to respect your beliefs and not be rude, and but then you don't get the same respect back, and they just keep trying to hand you pamphlets, and they won't let you leave without being rude. But these two guys were incredibly nice, very respectful. We chatted for a few minutes, and they took some samples, but that's because we were talking about them, and I encouraged them to take some. But nobody just randomly took some samples. That went nowhere. The sign I've got in my yard even has a special coupon for people in my neighborhood. I figured I'd give my neighbors a discount. I even have delivery set up so that if you're within a mile of my house, it's automatically free because I'm a fat ass and I need the exercise. So I'll just walk it over. But haven't had a single person in my neighborhood, even ask me about it, which again, it's not entirely surprising. Like, to be fair, I have purposely made myself invisible for the most part. Like, I am a wallflower. I am an introvert wholeheartedly. So, like, I am the neighbor that is generally quiet, you rarely ever see. I'm sure I'm probably the weird one in the neighborhood that everybody's got wild assumptions about. Speaking from experience, it's probably true based on some of the random conversations I've had with neighbors over the years. You know, Anyhow, that's a whole other topic. So not entirely surprising, but was disheartening that I didn't get even a single person in my neighborhood interested or to ask about it. Nothing. I got zero response. So that's part of why I was down, because I assumed there'd be at least one like-minded individual in my vicinity. And apparently not. So yeah, that was disheartening, especially when, I see all the posts on Nextdoor where everybody's like acting like we're all a tight knit community, we help each other out. But as soon as you've got a single mom trying to do a home bakery that is a little sassy and maybe doesn't hold the same opinions as you do, that whole concept goes kaput. They give no fucks. There's no support whatsoever. Very little support. I posted about it, but I even had a lady kind of get a little, snippy and rude with me on Nextdoor for posting. I've since learned she's apparently known for doing that, and I shut her down pretty quick. So there wasn't any ongoing drama there, thank goodness. Definitely caught me on a day, and I was feeling some kind of way. So I was very grateful that didn't actually turn into more drama. Definitely don't need that in my life. But yeah, the reaction was disappointing. Like I said, I thought for sure I'd at least get one or two people that, you know, would be supportive. But no, no. So that's part of why I was so bummed last week, because I figured, from my perspective, since I couldn't do the quickies, I couldn't really be outside, and I wasn't, didn't have any online orders. I didn't really have anything else to do, and I was stuck in this like limbo state of trying to figure out, okay, what do I do next? What do I try next? How do we pivot? Where do we go? That, yeah, I don't know. It's just, yeah. I want so bad to like just believe the people that live around me are genuinely good people, and they are nice for the most part. Yeah. I don't like hypocrites, and I don't like fake nice people. So basically just confirmed for me anyway that not interacting with most of the people in my neighborhood is a good life choice. So yeah, that was disappointing. But um, I've fixed my brain. My brain is my own worst enemy. So fixed my brain, regrouped, did a lot of self-reflecting. And what's even more disheartening is, I think, which again, I had a feeling, I suspected this might be the case. I'm fairly certain most of the people, because I got decent traffic to the website, like I got interest, I got exposure. People were curious and clicked and did the things, at least clicked through things. So that worked. But I suspect the majority of people in my local area went to my website, saw the bright colors and everything and designs, and probably initially, I suspect may have initially gotten a little excited about, oh wow, this looks cool. But as soon as they started reading, as soon as they started reading any of my product descriptions, I just have this fun thought that pops into my brain, this fun visual of a Karen scrolling on her phone. And as soon as she reads the first product description, screaming, harlot! And immediately swiping away and texting all of her friends, have you seen this? Oh, dare she? That's how I feel. Anyway, that's it's fun to think about that happening, because I'm sure as hell not changing anything. I mean, the website and all the branding and everything is very much me. It's one of the few things, the only thing in life that I've ever fully been my true self in. So I'm not changing it. So that, it is what it is. The challenge for me is I live deep in the Bible Belt. We'll put it that way. So I had a feeling it'd be a challenge to find my local audience, because I know they exist. I know there are like-minded people around here, especially when I look at I look at the data on the quickies. And from, I think it's been about 3 years now. Like 3 years ago, in the first iteration of the bakery, when I was solely doing farmers markets, like just looking back at that data and everything, like the reaction I get from people in person when they see me at a quickie or at the farmer's market, wherever, when they see me in person, like my conversion rate is insane. We're in the 90 percentile for a conversion rate in person. I have a very small percentage of people that come by, see things, and opt to leave. Damn near everybody gets something, right? So my conversion rate in person is amazing. But they're not, and I think that's because they're not paying attention to the branding. So in person, it's probably about 50-50, to be honest. The reactions are split. It's fun to watch because about half the people that read the branding on the packaging, as soon as they read mother fudger or crisis cookie, um, or fudgegasm or whatever, sloppy seconds gets a fun reaction all the time too. As soon as they read the product names, they're either laugh their asses off, think it's the best thing ever, and love it, right? So those are obviously my people, right? That's my market right there. And they always buy. But then the other half of the people are their initial reaction is completely over the moon, love everything, especially the hat. The hat gets everybody. It's the reasons I got it. But they love the hat, they love the setup, they think everything's great. I get lots of comments. I get lots of reactions that are to the effect of, "Oh my God, when did you open in town? Where are you located? I've never seen your store. I need to come by. This is great." And then they're shocked as shit to hear I work out of a shitty little kitchen. So like a lot of people automatically assume I am a real bakery, which is fantastic. That's what I'm going for, because I am a real bakery. so so yeah, so like those reactions are fantastic, but then it shifts. There's an interesting shift that happens as soon as they read the names. And if they're part of the market that loves Jesus, then it's fun to watch their shape. Jesus fucking Christ. Speaking of Jesus, struggling with words. My brain goes faster than my mouth sometimes, and here we are. uh, uh, the lovers of Jesus in the area, speak correctly. Um, they are initially like all about it, and then they read the names, and then this like change goes over their face, and you can tell they're like caught off guard. Because they see me and they see all the fun colors and bright and bubbly. And then they read the packaging and go, oh my. And they get so confused, and they don't know how to respond, because I've obviously mildly offended them in some way, but yet they like me. They like me as a person, and they want the thing. So I think like more often than not, they still like they buy. Like I haven't had any negative interactions with folks in person. So they still end up buying something. And I think at that point it's because they feel like they're obligated to, because they've just been so nice to me. I don't know. It's all theory at this point, but yeah, I don't really know for sure. But that's, I think, the reason why I'm ultimately struggling to get any traction really whatsoever on a local level, is because of that. Without that face to face interaction where they actually get to talk to me and, you know, uh, you know, get the happy feels from me. When they just see the website, it's too much for them, and they turn away. So we're shifting focus, and we booked out our calendar for the next month with markets and festivals. Yay! And the market I'm doing is actually not the one here locally in my area, for all the reasons I just discussed. I mean, I do think I would probably do okay at the farmers market here for sure, but I struggle supporting a market in an area where I've already, in some ways, learned the area is not going to support me. So yeah, I don't like doing that. So I'm gonna take my ass over to the next town, Fort Walton Beach, the next town over from me. That's the market I did the last go around with the bakery, where I got a good response. Pros and cons to doing the farmers market. There's a lot of reasons why I didn't immediately start doing that when I restarted the bakery a couple months ago. Lots of reasons, but now that we're here, I've, done all the experimenting out of the way that I felt like I needed to do just to prove my theories, learn some lessons, see what works and what doesn't work. And now that I've learned those lessons, I think it's time to go back to the market over there. Because the biggest reason why I struggled with the market over there before was because even though every market I made a profit, it wasn't really enough profit for it to be worth it overall. And there were reasons for that. Part of the problem I had was I was in hyper panic mode at the time because I had been out of work when I started the bakery the first time. I'd been out of work for months at that point, and it like starting the bakery was like a necessity because just to try to get some income going. Doing DoorDash, I was applying for however many jobs a week. I was not in the best mental state, I will fully admit. And the bakery was more out of necessity than fun, which it is that way again this time, but I'm less panicky about it. So I struggled the last go around with the bakery. Every time I planned for the market, I always brought too much. I brought way too much. So, and I stressed myself the fuck out by bringing all of this stuff uh, every other week. And so, because in my mind, you tally up, what everything costs and how much you're asking for. And you're like, okay, I couldn't get out of the mindset last time of, all right, I've got my power bill to pay. That's, 150 bucks or whatever it is. I need 150 bucks. So I would bring enough stuff to make 150 bucks, 200 bucks, whatever, however much money I was like desperately in need of at the time, which, you know, never worked out. I never made, the dream was to sell out and, make all of the money that I needed to make. And that never happened. Sorry, my head gets itchy under this hat sometimes, and I can't scratch it without taking the whole thing off. And that's annoying, but it's fine. We'll persevere. Try to ignore it, and maybe it'll go away. Or maybe I'll have to take the hat off and scratch it. We'll see. Um, so it, yeah. So part of the reason why it wasn't fully worth it, you know, looking at it from a purely data perspective, was my own fault because I just could not get out of that mindset. And so I fixed that. I'm fixing that this go around. Not doing that. I'm only bringing a little bit of each, and I have way better expectations on what to expect at the market. Get smart about it this time. But the other challenge I had with the market is just the timing of them, because they're always, more often than not, we're in the morning. And when you sell sweets, I'd end up like, you have to be there for the whole market. You have to be there for the whole time, 9 to 1, however long the market is, that, it's a half a day, and then especially considering some of the stuff that you have to get. Well, okay, let me back up. So you have to be there the whole time for the market, right? And let's say this particular market's from 9 to 1. Well, you have to get to the market at least an hour beforehand, because it's first come first serve from a setup and where you're going to be perspective. So if you want a decent spot, you got to get there at least an hour early, and then make sure also make sure you have plenty of time to get set up before the market opens, all of that, right? So you have to get there early. And then I have things on the menu that I make the day of, the morning of. That's why I normally don't do quickies. I'll start a quickie until later in the day. Gives me time to not be in a panic rush or have to get up super early just to get the stuff I have to make the morning of ready. Like popcorn is a great example. popcorn doesn't last that long. Doesn't stay fresh for very long. And if you want to have you want to be able to claim you have fresh popcorn, kind of need to make it the morning of. That's the best way to do that. So, granted, it doesn't take very long, but you got to do it the morning of. So, between having to get up super early to get everything finished, finish getting everything ready for the market, the time you have to spend there, especially because like with the sweets, I got a ton of people that would stop by the booth. I always had for the most part, a steady stream of people that would stop by and check things out. But my conversion rate at the market wasn't as good as it is at the quickies. It has been at the quickies recently. My conversion rate at the market was about 50%. And that was mostly because the morning people, the people that got to the market first thing in the morning, they're just coming from breakfast or brunch. They're not hungry. They don't have the munchies. They may have just had a donut for dessert with their breakfast or whatever. They just had donuts for breakfast. Like they didn't want anything sweet, and it was a challenge trying to convince those people to get something for later because their tummy's full. Like that makes sense. I wouldn't either. So there was always, a couple hours in the morning where I got no sales, which was, from an overall perspective, just a waste of time. So the bulk of my business happened later in the morning. My sales wouldn't start picking up until 10:30, 11. And then I had a very small window to sell because people stopped coming to the market at around noon, 12 to 12:30. So even though the market's open till 1, that last hour is hardly anybody coming. So that last hour, a lot of people go ahead and start packing up for the day. So they're ready to go as soon as it's over. Yeah, so I had a very small window of actually making sales. And I did some things before that worked. So like I did these things that I called bubble muffs that were really just monkey bread. And those sold great first thing in the morning. They were logistically a nightmare. So why they're not back on the menu. I would love to do them again, but gotta have a different setup and circumstances for me to make bubble muffs a reality again. But anyhow, that was a big part of why I haven't done the markets yet, is because I was hoping I could find local market that would be supportive and generate some business without having to go through all the hassle of the market. Like logistically, doing the farmers market is a pain in the ass. The other challenge I'm going to have this Saturday is needing to pee. Yeah. The last time I did the farmers market, I had my kid with me and he helped in, almost all facets of the bakery. This go around at the bakery, he's 17, almost an adult. He'll be 18 next month. And he wants nothing to do with the bakery whatsoever. And I get it. So I'm all doing it all by myself this time. And I think the biggest challenge I'm going to have this weekend, to be honest, the biggest thing I'm worried about for this weekend's market is having to pee. I don't have a backup. I don't have anybody there with me to, keep an eye on the booth while I run to the bathroom. So I guess I'm going to have to get friendly with my neighbors and hope somebody's willing to keep an eye on it while I run to the bathroom. Which seems like should be okay, but I struggle trusting people. So we'll see. I got the farmers market this weekend that I'm going to do. So I'm really curious to see. The last time I did the market, I didn't have the full setup. I didn't have the hat. I wasn't all this. I didn't have my hot pink canopy. I didn't have my fully branded setup and everything. I didn't have my shit together the last time, is basically what I'm trying to say. It was a hot mess. So I'm really curious to see this weekend how it goes and what kind of response I get with the upgrades. So fingers crossed it goes well. I really need the money. So I'm really hoping it goes well, but I'm not bringing that much. I'm, keeping my expectations low, and you know, I'm hoping I will sell out. I've never sold out. I really want to sell out. So I'm hoping I can sell out this weekend just because I'm not being stupid and bringing too much. I'm limiting what I'm bringing of everything. So, and I'm not even bringing everything. I'm only bringing certain things. So I'm hoping that works to my advantage. And I can actually, even though I'm kind of playing the system, will be able to claim I sold out. Anyhow, we'll see. So yeah, I'm curious to see what kind of reaction I get with everything updated. So there's that. The following weekend, I don't have anything officially set up. And I guess I should like circle back around. So part of the reason why I'm focusing on Fort Walton is like it's less of a snobby area. The best way I can think of to put it. It's less snobby. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Niceville. I love the area that I live in. Like, it's beautiful. I love. It's still small, so you can get to everything super easy. I don't get stuck in traffic all over the place. There's back roads. I've got everything I need in really a 5 square mile radius, give or take, which is fantastic. But yeah, I don't think my local market is here in Niceville, unfortunately. So I'm going back over to Fort Walton, which I lived in years ago. So I'm super familiar with that. I've been all over the panhandle for the past 20, 25 years, however long it's been. So I'm familiar with everywhere. So I'm going to take my ass back over there and see if I can get a better response and maybe be able to start drumming up some online business that way. Fingers crossed. Next weekend, the following weekend after that, I don't have anything officially planned, so probably we'll just do another quickie that weekend, unless I find something that I can add to the calendar. But probably won't, to be honest, because the weekend after, on the 28th, I am going to the No Kings protest in Fort Walton, and that one I am really excited about. I've already know I've already designed my signs. I still got to make it. I've got my sign. I already got my plan. I'm gonna go in full regalia. I'm gonna go like this, hoping I can generate some attention. And I feel like, as uncomfortable as that makes me feel, like I actually like hate attention. I really like being the wallflower, but I also desperately need the attention to help get the bakery off the ground. There's going to be a lot of people there. They had 500 people the last time. I'm assuming there will be even more this time. And I was already planning on going before I decided to, actually go and wear everything. So I'm gonna bring a bunch of free samples to hand out, a bunch of free goodies for all of the fellow protesters. But I was already planning on going, just because I'm so disgruntled with what's happening these days. My first ever protest. I've never been one. I'm historically not very politically motivated. Normally, I don't really pay it much attention. I am one of those people. But yeah, some things can't be ignored. So I pay a lot of attention these days. So I'm going to go to my first protest, and decided over the weekend to bring samples, actually, wear my stuff, wear my hat. And hopefully, I feel fairly certain I will find my like-minded people at the protest. So I'm really hoping I find a local market there. That would be amazing. It seems like a win-win on all fronts. I get to support something I feel very strongly about, as well as maybe generate enough business to keep my car and the lights on and the roof over our head. That would be fantastic. Anyhow, so I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to the No Kings protest. I'm a little nervous about it, but it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I'll get over it, hopefully. So yeah, so we got the No Kings protest, and then the following weekend on the 4th, I have my first festival. to go to as a real vendor. So I'm excited about that. So yeah, I'm going to True Fest in Fort Walton on the 4th. So got an actual festival to participate in. That's, so I'm hoping over the course of this next month with these various shift in focus and doing the market and festivals and the protest. Um, I really hope I find a local market. If I don't, you're going to be seeing me a lot more on here because, to be honest, the only reason I am awkwardly talking to a camera and effectively talking to myself at the moment is to hopefully eventually have a shipping business or a shipping side of the business. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm in a situation at the moment where I still don't know if I even have a local market. Maybe. Like it seems like logically and statistically speaking, it seems like I should have a local market. I guess, or maybe the better question is at the moment is like I should have a local market, but I have no idea how big it is. So yeah, it's only a few hundred people. That's not really a local market. It is, but not enough to actually sustain and, fulfill all of the hopes and dreams that I would like to do with the bakery. So, which honestly, now I'm thinking about it, was probably part of why I was bummed last week too, was coming to that realization. Like I just assumed I'd be able to find my people around here. And maybe what I'm learning is I really don't have any people around here. Maybe my people are with you on the interwebs. God knows where. All over. That could be the case. I don't know. TBD. TBD. We'll see. But I feel like I should get a good feel after this next month between the markets and festivals and stuff where I stand and whether or not I should continue my efforts locally or if I need to focus more with you, lovely folks. So yeah, that's where we are. Well, was a really long-winded diatribe that you probably don't give a shit about. I gotta get my ass moving, and today I need to prep a batch of marshmallows. Technically, I still have some, but they're like a couple weeks old at this point, and marshmallow doesn't actually go bad as long as you store it properly, but it does start to go a little stale, you know? Um, yeah. So when the marshmallows get to, over a week and a half old, give or take, um, I only use them for melting because it doesn't matter. You're just melting it, it doesn't matter. So technically still have some marshmallow left, but I'm gonna just use that for melty things, like the asteroids. So we're gonna save that marshmallow to melt and use in other things. And I need to make a fresh batch of marshmallows so I can have winter rocks this weekend. Um, so yeah, gotta make marshmallows. I need to do that so that way they're prepped and ready. I also need to make some batches of fudge, which, let's be honest, I probably won't do that today. That will probably be for tomorrow. Also need to mix up some more cookie dough. I'm completely out of cosmic cookie dough at the moment, very low on comfort, and I still have a decent amount of crack in the freezer. That's good. So thankfully, I don't have to make all of the cookie dough at the moment. So I'm not stressing at the moment, which is good and bad. Like on the one hand, I kind of wish I was stressing over orders. That would be nice. But on the other hand, it's also nice to take things slow and keep working on honing things as I go, tweaking things. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's what we're doing today. Talk to you later.